My name is Rachel Baldwin, and I am here to talk about my experience working with Rescom and their mold remediation service. In 2004, I was diagnosed with chronic disseminated Lyme disease. I had been suffering symptoms since sometime in the early 90s, I think, and had gone undiagnosed for many years and was already having neurological symptoms by the time I was diagnosed. I tested positive 3 times over 2 years with 3 different tests, so there's very little doubt, if any, that I do actually have Lyme disease. I have been in medical treatment with a number of different naturopaths since 2003. And each of those naturopaths in turn has sort of plateaued in their ability to help me continue to get better. And my last naturopath felt very strongly that a big part of my inability to recover from Lyme has been the fact that I have lived for 25 years in a house built in 1912 that has no insulation and the original windows. It's like living in a big leaky tent. And on top of all of the rest of this, the floor in the basement is dirt. And this exposed dirt floor in a basement with no ventilation was producing a highly significant amount of mold. And living in a house with all of this mold exposure, my naturopath convinced me was preventing me from recovering from Lyme. And so with her encouragement, I contacted a lab in Albuquerque called Immunolytics, and they sent me little petri dish test plates and had me set them out around the house and leave them out for an hour. And then I bundled them up, sealed them tight, and sent them back, and they analyzed the mold in my house. And the results of that were the information that the 2 upper floors of my house were severely saturated with candida, and the basement was saturated with penicillin. And when I say saturated, I mean that the lab was normally able to count the spores in a given petri dish, and in several of the ones from this house, they were unable to do that. And they said, we see levels this high sometimes, but it's pretty rare. So there was no question that the house was indeed saturated with mold, although most of it was not visible to the naked eye. Most people who walked into the house could smell it immediately. I got pretty nose blind over time. And I didn't know how to address this at all, and especially felt conflicted because my house is a rental. And many of the places I called said, we really only work directly with landlords, and we don't really quite know how to approach this if it's a rental. And I was concerned about asking my landlord for an expensive repair and then having the rent raised. So it took me a long time to figure out how to negotiate this, but finally I just came to the conclusion that I didn't have a choice. And one day at my chiropractor's office, I found a brochure for Rescom. And I called and made an appointment, and now my house has been fogged, and my basement has been vapor sealed, and my floor has been covered with plastic, and I have hope that I haven't had in a long time of feeling better. Working with Rescom was everything I hope for when I'm working for a company, working with a company. When I am a customer, I hope to be treated with respect. I hope to be listened to. I hope to have my needs met. I hope to be treated kindly and with patience. And I found all of these things to be true with Rescom. They answered my calls. They showed up when they said they would. They did what they said they were going to do. They stuck to their estimates. They gave me the best price they possibly could. They were kind and helpful. They answered every question, no matter how ridiculous. They advocated for me with my landlord. They were incredibly patient. There were hitches in the project that delayed it more than once, so that it actually took months to get it done. And they never gave up. They showed up. They showed up, and they showed up again, and they showed up again, and they consulted with me and guided me at every step. And this literally would not have happened without them, and I really doubt it would have happened with any other company. And so, one of the very first things that happened was that I mentioned that I have Lyme, and was immediately responded to with, "Oh, yeah, that's serious. Let's get you helped." And if you have Lyme or know people who do, you will understand that that's not a response you can count on. At least as often you say that you have Lyme and somebody else says, "Oh, well, what's that?" or you just get dismissed. But Rescom, the folks at Rescom understand what Lyme is and how serious it is, and respond appropriately and supportively. So that was huge for me also, to have people who recognized the nature of my illness and were willing to really give me that extra measure of support. So if you have Lyme, or even if you don't, and you live in a moldy house, which there are many, many, many of them in Portland, I strongly recommend working with Rescom. Thank you.